So today in this season preview for my favorite team, the Ottawa Senators, I'm going to be taking a look at their roster, as well as giving a playoff prediction for them, so I hope you all enjoy. The last 4 years have been a pretty rough go for the Ottawa Senators, but things are really looking up for them now, and they're definitely going in the right direction. This season we can finally stop talking about the draft lottery, I think, and we can start talking about playoffs potentially. So let's get to the lineup. On the first line, I have Josh Norris at center with Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson as his wingers. And for Josh Norris, he had a bit of a slow start last year, goal-scoring wise anyways. He picked it up as the season went on, and he really showed me that, he could potentially be that number one center that the Sens have lacked for so many years. The attributes he possesses are something you want in every number one center. He has decent size. Most importantly, he skates well though. He has a good shot, he's got great hockey sense, and he's a pretty underrated passer as well. Brady Tkachuk, he's that emotional guy that brings his work boots every night. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I would like to see him tone down his emotions a little bit, and by that I mean, sometimes he is prone to taking a bad penalty out of frustration just because he's that ramped up and into the game. So I would like to see him tone that down a little bit this season. Drake Batherson is an interesting one for me because he's always been a late developer everywhere he's gone, and there's been talk that he can be a 70-plus point guy. I'm not so sure about that right now, but I would never rule it out with Batherson just because, like I said, everywhere he's gone, he's been a late developer, so maybe it won't be any different here in the NHL. Maybe by the time he hits 25, 26 years old, he becomes a full-time 70-point guy, who knows. On the second line, I have Tim Stützle, Shane Pinto, and Colin White. And I know really his name is Stützle, but it's just kind of weird for me to say, so I call him Stützle. This is a tentative line for me because is Shane Pinto ready to make the jump to being a full-time NHL player? Not only making a jump to be a full-time NHL player, but also making the jump to be a guy that plays in the top 6 full-time as well. And if Pinto does not make the team out of camp, it's not the worst thing in the world. A year in the AHL would not be so bad. Many great players have played at least a year in the AHL, and they've gone on to be great NHL players. So like I said, if Pinto's in the AHL to start the season, I really wouldn't panic. Tim Stützle, in my mind, has superstar written all over him. It's just a matter of him getting to that full potential at this point. And not to put any pressure on the young kid, but he could end up being the best forward the Ottawa Senators have ever had. And you're probably thinking, Colin White in the top 6 over Connor Brown? Well, for me, Colin White really has to make the jump to being a top 6 forward this year. The Sens are paying him like a top 6 forward. He has to realize his full potential too. And White's had an up and down career so far. He had a solid rookie season in 18-19, a very bad sophomore season in 19-20. And last year was kind of a mixed bag for him. On the third line, I have Nick Paul playing along Logan Brown and Connor Brown. Yes, Logan Brown is still here. He's still an Ottawa Senator. And I know I said this last year about him, but I think this holds true even more for this season. He's got to make the team out of camp. He's got to stay with the team full time, and he's got to make an impression finally this year. Logan Brown was taken 11th overall by the Ottawa Senators in 2016. And at the time the Sens drafted him, he was almost looked at to be the next Jason Spezza, that big centerman, that big playmaking centerman that could really help a power play and just be a threat every time he's out there 5-on-5 as well. Obviously, we know that hasn't worked out yet, but hopefully for Logan Brown, the 5th time's a charm. This is his 5th year in the Sens organization and his most crucial year by far. Nick Paul, not much to say about him other than he works very hard. He's a proven NHLer. He's a great penalty killer as well. Same can be said for Connor Brown, but he does have more offensive upside than Nick Paul. And for Connor Brown, he doesn't have to score 20 goals every single year for me to be happy with him. He doesn't have to score 20 goals any year either. If he even gets 12 to 16 goals per year, he plays well defensively, he's good on the forecheck, he's great on the penalty kill, that'll make me happy with him. Fourth line, I have Alex Formenton, Chris Tierney, and Austin Watson. So depending on Ottawa's center iceman situation, Chris Tierney could very well find himself as the Sens' second line center. And the reason I say that is, what if Shane Pinto doesn't make the team out of camp? What if Logan Brown disappoints us again? I mean, who are they going to turn to? Colin White, maybe? He could slide in from the wing to playing second line center. Maybe Chris Tierney, obviously he would have to move up to third line center in that situation. I also could very well see Alex Formenton dethrone Nick Paul for the third line left wing position. No offense to Nick Paul, I'm a huge fan of his, but I think Formenton does have more offensive upside than Nick Paul. On defense, for the first pairing, we have Thomas Chabot and Nikita Zaitsev. On the second pairing, Victor Mete and Artem Zub. And on the third pairing, Nick Holden and Eric Brandstrom. I know what you're thinking. What? Brandstrom on the third pairing? Just to have him start right now, I think he could move up if he was able to play more on his offside. But DJ Smith has hinted that he doesn't like playing Brandstrom on his offside. So for now, anyways, to start, I have him on the third pairing. Who knows? Hopefully he will move up the ranks as the season goes on. Holden, I think he will see a full-time role definitely with the Ottawa Senators because DJ Smith loves his big physical defenseman. And I think there is a place for guys like that in the game still. And I know you're probably a bit confused because I think a lot of people perceive me, or at least people who have watched this channel long enough anyways, perceive me as a guy that if I had it my way, there would be no hits in the games at all. But that's not the case. I just don't like seeing big, heavy, slow defensemen get put in the lineup in the place of a young, skilled, offensive defenseman like Eric Brandstrom. And with Brandstrom, there's been a lot of trade rumors. I really hope they don't trade this guy. I think it would be very foolish to give up on him now. Well, he did see a good amount of action towards the end of the year last season. I think he does need to have a much bigger look in the NHL before the Sens even consider trading this guy. In goal, we have Matt Murray, and I have Philip Gustafsson as the backup, not Anton Forsberg. I do think Gustafsson will be better than Forsberg this year and beat him out for that backup position. Maybe Philip Gustafsson even beats out Matt Murray for the #1 goalie spot this year. Extras at forward, we have Cole Sherwood, Clark Bishop, Pontus Aberg, Parker Kelly, and even Igor Sokolov. Extras on defense, I have Josh Brown, Michael Delzato, Jacob Bernard-Docker, and Dylan Hetherington. And yes, I do not have Jacob Bernard-Docker making this team out of camp, but it's okay if he spends some time in the AHL. It won't be the worst thing for him. Much rather have JBD play a lot in the AHL than make the team out of camp, get lost in the shuffle of the many defensemen the Sens have, and end up not really seeing a ton of ice time. One area I would like to see the Sens really clean up is their defense, and I know I've said this many times, but defense is not just the 6 guys back there, it's a 5-man unit. And for having a very physical team, I find the Sens are not very physical in front of their own net. They let guys get second and third chances a lot, or at least they did last season anyway, so that's something they really have to work on this season to be better. And that's just a guess of what I think the lines will be. I mean, some guys could play better and move up the lineup, some guys could play worse and move down the lineup. I also want to point out that I think Tim Stützle could eventually overtake Brady Tkachuk for that #1 wing spot. Maybe not this year, but I could see it next year. I do think Stützle will end up being a better player than Brady Tkachuk. Now for a playoff prediction. Look, the East is so unfairly good this year. It's going to be tough for the Sens to make it, although I do think they'll have one of their best seasons that they've had in the last 4 years, that's for sure. I think they'll be in the hunt right till the very end. But I have a hard time believing that they're going to be able to squeak into even a wild card spot just because there's so many good teams in the East. Like I said, it's just so unfair for the Ottawa Senators this year. It's unfair for a lot of teams too that are good and that, you know, have made a lot of improvements and look like they could be a playoff team in any other year. But except, like I said, the Eastern Conference has a ton of good teams in it. The Sens are going to be in tough. If they do make it, I could see them squeaking in as a wild card, but I don't think they are going to make it. I think they do miss the playoffs for the 5th straight year in a row. But the Sens being a bottom feeder should be out of the question. They should be in the hunt for the playoffs right till the very end and playing meaningful games the final 20 to 30 down the stretch. So there it is, a season preview for the Ottawa Senators. Please let me know what you all think in the comment section below. Also, please like and subscribe and share this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.